This is the actual product that's going to the food banks. We're shipping about 8,000 pounds a week right now, and it seems to be a good starting point, and we're building the program from there. Well, in this economy especially, there's a growing number of people who never thought that they would find themselves in a situation where they need a food bank. And in general, it's important, but in these times, it's especially important. Well, I think really it's a partnership. As society, we need to be socially responsible. I also, it breaks my heart when I see product that we're dumping. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it, different market conditions. And by donating a small percentage of our total production in Ontario, absolutely no one in Ontario needs to ever go to bed hungry. Nature Fresh Farms is now 67 acres of bell pepper production. We're currently under construction with another 31 acres, so we'll be at 100 acres, just barely under 100 acres of vegetable production by the end of this year. We're completely food safety certified, third-party audit. We employ about approximately 120 people now. We'll be upwards of 150 next year. What most people don't know, an orange pepper, for instance, contains more vitamin C than an actual orange. It's not a well-kept secret. Fruits and vegetables are extremely nutritious, and that's one of the major components that's missing from a lot of people that are less fortunate from their diet today.
Well, particularly today, with the downturn in the economy, it's important that everyone have access to healthy food, and in particular, local grown healthy food. Quite often, because of market conditions or weather conditions or the particular crop in the season that we're in, there is food left in the field, and farmers don't want to plow that back. They'd really rather see it used. So a partnership like this will enable that food to get into the hands of the people that need it.
We're experiencing a very difficult time in Ontario with a downturn in the economy. We've already seen an increase of 20% in terms of the number of people turning to food banks. We already serve well over 300,000, and so we're anticipating this year there'll be over 350,000 people a month turning to Ontario's food banks. And with tough economic times, job losses in places like Windsor and Oshawa and London, Thunder Bay and Toronto, as many as 500,000 more Ontarians will be living in poverty by the end of 2010. And so with that many people turning to food banks, we'll obviously need a significant supply of food, both fresh and dry product. And so getting fresh product from Ontario's farms is extremely important, given that we've seen so many closures in food manufacturing in Ontario. In the past 18 months alone, we've seen the closure of 10 food manufacturing plants. A single donor alone in Ontario used to give to us would donate 350,000 pounds of fresh, nutritious product for our food banks. And so over the past 18 months, we've lost about 1 million pounds of food. And so for us, it's important for people to support Ontario's food banks. We're working with the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, Nature Fresh Farms, as well as local farmers and farm organizations to ask the provincial government to create a tax credit for local Ontario producers and local Ontario processors for the donation of fresh local foods for Ontario's food banks to get out to Ontario's families. And the need is great. There are so many people turning to food banks in Ontario. Our numbers have skyrocketed by 20% in the past year alone. There's so much food that's available. Between 20 and 25 million pounds of food could be going to food banks and families across the province, but it isn't because there aren't those tools and resources available. And farmers are willing to donate. If we were to provide that very small incentive, that interest in that tax credit, that would allow them to donate. And for every dollar invested by the provincial government would generate $7 worth of fresh local food for Ontario's food banks and families. And so the return for the province is tremendous. And it was Peter's leadership. He came to us and said, I want to donate. I want to give to local food banks across Ontario. But not just that, I want to encourage others to do so as well. And so he came on board in support of the tax credit. He has reached out and worked together with us as well as our partners, the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, to ensure that farmers can have that small incentive to cover a bit of their costs so they can provide food to Ontario's food banks and Ontario's families.